Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Samantha and I make videos on minimalism, productivity and intentional living. So today I wanted to make a bit of a chatty video talking about coronavirus and how it's affected my life and just what we're all experiencing on a global scale at the moment. So obviously the virus originated in Wuhan in China, a city that I had never heard of. Apparently it has 11 million people. It just goes to show you how vast China is. London in comparison has between 6 to 8 million people. So that's just way smaller than Wuhan, which is a city, as I said, I'd never heard of. The virus originated in China, I believe from a bat in late December. People knew it was happening, people knew it was coming, but I don't think people realized how it would basically bring the world to its knees, and it looks like there's going to be a recession. So all of that I'll touch on in a bit. I'll actually talk about my financial position and what it means. It's not a big problem, not right now, but obviously if we have a year of being kind of working from home and stuff, all businesses are going to suffer, but for now I'm okay. I don't know why people thought that containment in China would work, and I guess it did work and it has been fairly successful. As far as I know, Wuhan is still in lockdown, but people are allowed to go out in a limited fashion. The infection rates have dropped right down. So that's good news, but obviously now it's spread to Europe and it's the epicenter of the pandemic right now, which I guess, you know, in comparison to less developed areas of the world, we're kind of equipped to deal with it. But as you can see, the health services are really suffering. I mean, in Italy and Spain, it's really bad, and they say that the UK is only a few weeks behind Italy. So right now everybody is being asked to self-isolate. The asking might actually change to being told to self-isolate. There's going to be an announcement by the Prime Minister at 8:30 today, so who knows if that will bring a lockdown. People are really disappointed that some people aren't following the rules, although I have to say the vast majority do seem to be following the rules. People on public transport has fallen by 80%. People have been asked not to stockpile, and that seems to have gone down. There was a spate of stockpiling for a week or so, but I think that's kind of calmed down a lot as well, because the government has come out and given lots of reassurances that there will be food, that there will be toilet paper, because that's one of the things that kept running out. We're really conscious of what's happened in Italy. They keep giving us warnings and letting us know what to expect, and that has made us very nervous. The NHS is the National Health Service in London, in the UK. It's a free service. We get really amazing healthcare over here in the UK. It's funded by the public, and so when you do get sick, you don't have to pay anything. So it's a very well-loved institution, but it has been chronically underfunded over, I think, a couple of decades now, possibly, and that does mean that everybody's very worried that it will reach capacity very quickly if a lot of people get sick. So essentially our whole way of life has completely changed. I've been working from home and so has Andrew, and we are so lucky because both our jobs allow us to work from home fairly easily. We've both got laptops, we've both got a setup. Well, actually, we've kind of been fighting over the room and this space to try and accommodate both of us. Andrew makes a lot of phone calls. He's basically an account manager for an energy company. I do a lot of editing work as a video editor and a video journalist, so I need space to have all my kit and stuff. Online media is where I work, and it's super easy to just kind of pack up from the office and work from home. I have seen a bit of panic, I guess, from the CEOs and upper management in the company, because all their forecasts and growth forecasts and profit margins are all based on 2019, and everybody was projecting growth. Obviously everybody always projects growth and they expect growth, but with the coronavirus, that's really not going to happen. Things will pick up because this is the new normal. It's going to carry on for at least 3 months. So life is going to have to return to some kind of normal, but it's going to be difficult because non-essential shops are going to be closed as far as I can tell. Supermarkets and pharmacies are going to be open, and everybody's just gone back to basics. And talking about back to basics, I mean, everybody's kind of become a minimalist, and not through choice. Everybody seems to be adjusting really well. It really puts your priorities into perspective. We live in a world where there's so much abundance. I mean, definitely in the Western world, there's so much abundance. So I don't think people are really complaining. Yes, they're complaining about having to stay at home because we are social creatures, and people are definitely missing that human interaction. But by and large, I think people are pretty thankful. We've got the internet, we've got online entertainment, we have so much entertainment. The UK had a real radical change in strategy. I think when they realised the number of lives that would be lost and the number of older people that would be lost, that's when things really stepped into gear. Before then, because the symptoms were so mild in younger people weren't really taking it seriously. They hadn't thought about all the knock-on effects. Like, if more people are sick, then the NHS is going to be overwhelmed. And then obviously older people, because they get sick more severely because of coronavirus, that means a lot of them will end up dying. And yeah, I think that's kind of what made everybody think like, okay. And obviously we'd seen other countries beforehand and seen what they had to do to kind of stop the spread, or are trying to do to stop the spread. I've read a lot of interesting articles and seen a lot of interesting things, but two things have really stuck in my mind. One was an article on the BBC about how Singapore did a lot of contact tracing. Because it's such a small country and it's really, really dense, they couldn't really afford for the virus to go out of control. It still might. But they really aggressively did something called contact tracing, where detectives were put on cases. So if somebody was infected, they would go around and trace all the people that the infected person had been in touch with, and they would make those people who had been in contact with the infected person go into self-isolation. And if they didn't follow the rules, then there's a big fine to be had. And it's really interesting the amount of surveillance that they talk about in Singapore, and how the general public are fairly okay with that, and how they're quite obedient to the government. I think by and large the UK is as well. If the government tells you to do something, most people do follow it. But I guess there is a bit of a rebellious streak in our culture. That's just the way that we are. So it's interesting. We are very anti-surveillance. I think there's a real suspicion of the government that's always been there. I don't know where it stems from. Maybe I'll have to do some research, but that's a real strong thing in our culture. So that was really interesting, how different attitudes to surveillance made it much easier in Singapore to stay on top of it. And I also saw a documentary on BBC iPlayer called Our World, which focused on Wuhan and the residents of Wuhan talking about like their experiences. China feels so far away, the people feel so far away, but then when you see them and you hear their human stories, it's really kind of heart-wrenching. And then you realize how high the stakes are when you see people seriously ill, because so far we've been told, or like recently we've been told how serious it is, but in the beginning it was very much like, oh, it's a bit of a flu, it'll be fine, it's not dangerous. But now they really talk about how serious it can get. So if it gets super serious, you get pneumonia-like symptoms and you might have to go into intensive care. I'll link both the article and the program in the description below. If you don't live in the UK, I don't know if you'll be able to get access to the iPlayer program, but hopefully you'll be able to access the article that I've talked about Singapore. Overall, finances are pretty good for me and Andrew. I mean, Andrew's company have told him that for the next 12 months, they're solid, they're fine, and the company will definitely survive. There's been no talk of any financial difficulties in my company either. I'm so glad that I'm not freelance. It's always been my dream to be a freelancer and to be self-employed. This is the first time where I've thought, you know what, I might have to revise that. Us as employees have so much protection from the UK government. They've already said that they are willing to pay up to 80% of our wage packet if we can't work. But if you're a freelancer, you're in so much trouble at the moment. I think provisions will come in. I'm not sure what the provisions will be, but I think there's a lot of pressure on the government. You get to see how like non-essential your job is in a way, because you know, at the moment, all we really need are doctors and nurses and delivery drivers, and nobody needs a frou-frou video editor all the time. I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky to still have my job and not be too worried about the future. Obviously, if this continues for 12 months, I'm not sure. I still think my job will be safe. Our team is super small, so there's not a lot of overlap between jobs, and not a lot of people can do what I do and I can't do what they do. So in that way, that's quite good. I also feel very thankful that my parents have as big a house as they do, because at the moment it's me, my sister, my husband and my mom and dad who are all living under the same roof. We have a 5-bedroom house, which means that most of us have we have like a bedroom each if needs be. family. Also, there's not too much loneliness. If I am working and I want to feel like refreshed, I'll go downstairs and I'll chat to my dad and my mum. They're seeing so much of me. Normally they can never get hold of me, but now I'm just seeking them out just to have a chat, and it has been really, really nice. It's made me appreciate my family a lot more. It's given me time to be with them. The first week was pretty hard when I was in self-isolation. I didn't really know what to do with myself. I felt very slobby. I was just kind of working from the bed. I wasn't even getting up to go to my desk, which I'm making a point of doing now, and I'm making a point of, you know, blocking off my time. And I think tomorrow I'm going to try and put a firmer plan down as to how I want to structure my days, because it is very difficult without structure, and I do feel a sense of aimlessness and sometimes slightly depressed, I would say, and I think it's just the situation. I also feel fairly anxious, and I think that's just because you get addicted to the news and you want to find out what's happening, and because there's no end in sight really. We're just at the beginning of it, so who knows when I'll be able to see the outside. I'm not very much an outside girl, so this isn't the best for me because in a way it doesn't even force me to go outside. I think we are allowed to go to just nearby places as long as we're like a couple of feet away from people. And I live in an area where I can kind of go for a walk and not have lots of interaction with people. So I'll see how I go. I might have to start forcing myself to go out and just get some fresh air and stuff. So that's really it for me. I hope you guys found this interesting. This is what life is like in the UK right now. Please tell me what your life is like. And I wasn't really in the headspace to keep making minimalism content and not address coronavirus. Of course, I'll continue making the kind of content that I always make because that's what interests me, that's what my passion is, and I'll do so going forward. But it just didn't feel right to not acknowledge what's happening in the world. And I just wanted to have a chat with you and tell you where my head's at and find out what you guys are up to. So good luck everyone. I can't wait for all of this to be over, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!